become complacent. You don't just stay in the same role and not grow and just become comfortable. But anyway, let's talk about getting a raise. How do we do it? Well, luckily for you, there are just 2 steps that we're going to go over. First things first is that getting a raise is one of the easiest ways to earn money. You know how we all try to save money by not buying a coffee, buying gasoline for our car when the gas is cheaper? Those are really good ways to save money, but getting a raise and getting paid more is just an easier way for you to have more money. So it's a very, very important thing. The first step that we want to do is to actually ask for a raise. I know it's a silly point to have, but you have no idea how many times people say, oh, my company doesn't really do raises. Or people thinking that by asking for a raise, they're considered rude and they're going to get fired. Especially as an engineer. At the end of the day, you'll get a raise if you provide value to the company. If you never ask, the answer is always no. For example, $10,000 means a lot more to you than it does to a company. Because, well, they have a lot more money than you. So think about it this way. If you owned a business and you had an employee that is fantastic, great, would you pay them $10,000 more on top of their salary just out of the kindness of your heart? I mean, you might, but most likely you're not going to unless they ask. But if they ask, you value them, right? Finding a new employee to do the work to train them and hopefully be as good as you are is going to cost your business a lot of money. You're not going to say no to a, let's say, 10% increase in their salary because it means a lot less to you. So keep that in mind. For companies, hiring and training people is really expensive. They rather keep the good employees that they have. It's a lot cheaper to do so. So always ask for a raise. All companies, if you provide enough value, should have the capacity to give you raises. But here's the thing, and this is the second part. You have to show, don't tell. You can't just say, I'm valuable, can I have more money? You actually want to show them why you're valuable. Let me explain. When asking for a raise, you don't just go in and ask for it. You want to make a presentation, maybe a 1-page summary, a document perhaps, or an email to your boss, offering proof that you're driving the metrics, the numbers that matter to them. This way you show your great investment and you show the numbers, the stories, the reason why you should get a raise. If you don't have a reason and you just want a raise and you just say that, it doesn't make sense. So hopefully you're a good employee, a good engineer, and you're contributing to the company. And at the end of the day, there's no easy way around it. What you're going to do is during your first months at the job, I would personally keep a folder with all the good things you have done for the company. And this is something that I've done myself as well. Problems you have solved, money you've saved, great comments or feedbacks you have gotten from clients and coworkers, emails, and perhaps keep track of your skill level from the first day on the job to the 6 months mark. What did you learn? What did you improve on? List all these skills you have acquired and list what you plan to accomplish in the next 6 months. Write this all out in a document. By writing a 1-page letter showing example of this, proof of how good of an employee you are, what you've learned, what your plans are for the next 6 months to improve the company. Now you have a way to meet with the person in charge of making the salary decision and actually give them this piece of document that shows why you deserve a higher salary, why you're a different person than you were when they first hired you, when they didn't know that you were going to be valuable. And finally, you want to ask for a salary level a lot higher than you actually want. So a good general rule is 10,000 more than you actually want. Because most likely they're going to meet you in the middle, and this will make the middle the happy ground for both parties. Okay, and I know what you're thinking. It's not going to work, Andre. It may have worked for you, but not for me. And this sounds very blunt. Some people are worried about asking raises, and it's an uncomfortable situation. But let me ask you this. If both employer and employee respect each other, value each other, shouldn't this be normal to find a middle ground where both parties are happy? After all, look at all the good that you have done for them. Like I said before, it's very expensive for companies to hire new developers, new engineers. You're already established yourself, you've proven yourself, and you've done a great job with the company. They want to keep you around. Value yourself because they value you. To finish off, I just want to give an example of a little story of how I managed to get raises. At my previous job, I got a raise every 6 months. And it wasn't because they just gave it to me. It's because I asked for a raise every 6 months. And every 6 months, I received a raise. As a matter of fact, one time, I got a raise that, I wasn't happy with. And I said why I thought it should be more. And they actually agreed and came back and gave me an even higher raise. And that story is not just for me to boast and show off, but to show you that it's possible. You have to ask. If you never ask, the answer is always no. Show why you deserve the raise, and you'll be surprised at how easy it is to do so. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Well done. You just finished another section. And congratulations. Someone finds your skills valuable. And this is the fun part, right? Offers and negotiations. Being able to handle those properly. It's something that most people don't really think about because they're so focused on getting a job that when they actually receive an offer or they're on the job, they're not really prepared to handle negotiation, handle salaries, handle offers. Which, let's be honest, you get these throughout your life, throughout your career. You're going to have to handle these situations. And it's one of the best things you can do in terms of investment, is being prepared for these. So I hope this section taught you how to handle rejection, how to handle offers, how to handle multiple offers, some basic tips on negotiation, and how to get a raise and ask for a raise. At the end of the day, we worked so hard to get here. The easiest part is this, where we're able to set ourselves up for the rest of the year, the rest of our career at a company, in a way that we're happy and satisfied with our job, with our salaries, and with our benefits. But there's one overall theme in all of this, and that is you want to treat people well. You don't want to create enemies. And if you do it properly, you won't. Be a nice person. Be positive. Don't burn bridges. Negotiation and asking for salary isn't going to create enemies. It's just two parties having a conversation to meet in the middle and both be happy. And just like a muscle, just like we train our coding skills, practicing negotiating, practicing how to handle offers is a muscle that you can train. So go out there and negotiate your next raise. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. If you never ask, the answer is always no. You should value yourself. Most importantly, you should value the fact that you are giving your most precious resource, that is, time, to an employer. Make the right choice when selecting employers. It is as much about what you want as it is about what they want. Work for a company that respects your time. Otherwise, why would you want to be there? Good luck out there. And thank you for being part of the course and the community and for supporting my work. I promise to create content that is not just for marketing, but that actually improves your skills. I hope you keep following me in this journey, and I hope you have a successful career. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Welcome back. I want to show you one of my favorite coding challenges that happens every year. Every Christmas in December, there's something called Advent of Code. And if you Google Advent of Code, you'll see that, the 2017 version comes, but based on when you're watching the video, there will be the 2018 version, but you can also go back in time and do the previous years. If I go to 2016, we see our 2016 version. Now, as a community, our Zero to Mastery community on Discord, every December, we tackle this challenge and try to solve coding problems for 25 days straight. And these are, in my opinion, some of the best logical problems that you can solve with code. They're really, really good, and they get harder and harder each day. But the fun thing is that you'll have a community of people to do it with. And as you can see here, there's subreddits, there's Hacker News, communities that work together, and our own community where we compare each other's code, see who came up with what solution. So I encourage you to do this, even if it isn't December. But get ready, because in December, we're going to be doing this challenge together every December as a community. Happy Advent of Code. In this video, we're going to talk about how to contribute to open source and actually take you through the steps. But first, for those who don't know, what is open source? Well, a lot of technology that has been created on the internet that we know today has been built on top of open source projects. And open source projects means that anybody can view the code. Anybody can see the code of a program, can inspect it, can modify it, can enhance it. In this way, the idea is that by sharing this information with everybody, we get everybody's input and we use the collective mind to improve software. Not only that, but it also benefits everybody, right? For example, the most famous example of an open source project is Linux, an operating system just like Windows or Mac OS, except it's built by everyday programmers. And it's code that is completely open sourced. Anybody can inspect the code, add on to it, and it's become so successful that most of the cloud that we know of, the servers usually run Linux. AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, all of them use Linux. Some of you might be running Linux right now as you watch this video. So not only do you get to work with other developers from around the world, where you can build great projects by just working in teams, by learning how open source works, well, you don't have to create something as big as Linux. You can create a project with a friend, something very small and simple. It doesn't really matter. The idea is of collaboration, of openness and sharing code to hopefully improve on the collective knowledge. Finally, a lot of employers actually look upon open source contribution as a plus. So if you're able to put in your resume that you're an open source contributor, well, that's a good sign. Plus, it teaches you valuable skills using Git and GitHub to work in teams. If you're looking for job experience but you don't have a job, contributing to open source is the perfect way for you to learn how to work in teams and mimic a work-like scenario. This is a really important video and something I'm really excited about. So let's show you how to make your first open source contribution. Improve your resume, learn some real-life skills, and have fun along the way. Now, we've actually created some open source projects for you for this course. We have the Zero to Mastery repository here, where we can see that we have about 64 projects open right now with about 2,000 contributors. That's a lot of people, and this number is bound to increase. Now, this place was created as a practice ground for you, a playground. Nobody will yell at you if you break things. You can contribute, add silly things, whatever you want. It's a testing ground. The idea is to have as much fun as possible and make it as easy as possible to contribute to open source. Now, within that organization, we have a great community of administrator or management team that will help you with these open source projects. By the way, who are these administrators? They're right here. Ignore my name. I help out as well, but they do a lot of the heavy lifting. And they are past students, just like you, that have had a bit of experience now. Most of them are working full-time, but they are now helping out the community by helping with our open source projects, our Discord, and generally just helping our community grow. So shout out to them. If you get a chance, say hi to them on Discord. They definitely do a lot for this community. They're very active on Discord and they really help maintain all of our open source projects. So let's learn how to make our very first open source contribution. I do want to note here that this isn't the only way for you to contribute to open source. This is just a playground that we've created for you. But once you contribute here, you can go off and contribute to all the other open source projects all over GitHub they can find. You can contribute to projects like React and Angular. The world is your oyster. Or you can just stick to these, as we actually have a ton of projects here that are fun. We have events going on like Hacktoberfest. Well, we'll get to that shortly. We definitely have a great community of developers and we can create some awesome projects together. Now, the way you want to get started is to first go to the Start Here guidelines. Now, in the Start Here guidelines, and I'll link to this page, you actually have a 4-step guide to get started. The first thing you want to do is to actually watch the Get Started guideline. A fellow student actually created this guide for you to follow the steps that I'll mention in this video. So you always have this as a reference. So after this video, definitely check out this document as a reference. But otherwise, once you've browsed through the document, make your first pull request. So if you've already watched my Git and GitHub videos, you should be all set. Otherwise, hopefully you're familiar with Git and GitHub. Now, the first thing we want to do is to actually add our names to the contributors.md file in this project. So if you go up, you'll see that we have a contributors.md, which stands for Markdown file. And if I click on here, you see that all the contributors that we have over 1,000 contributors. And if you scroll down, these are all their GitHub names. So your first task is to actually add your name to this list. So how can we do this? Well, we can just clone this repository, but a more recommended way of usually contributing to open source is to fork the project. Fork essentially means copy over the entire project and put it on your own GitHub profile. So if I click fork here, and we see over here that you can select where you want to fork the project and you want to select your profile. So once we fork this project, we make a copy of it. It's like we own this repository now with our own version of the Start Here guidelines. So once we have this, we can clone this repository using SSH or HTTPS, whatever you prefer. In my case, I'll use SSH so that I don't have to use my password every time. I can now say git clone and clone this repository. Now we can cd into Start Here guidelines, and we can open this up in our favorite text editor. Now, once here, let's clear this. We have the contributors file, which we need to add our name to. Now you can see here the contributors file is getting quite long because, well, we've got a lot of students who are contributing to open source. But at the very end, make sure you're at the very end here, you want to add your own name. Now here's the thing. Right now we're on the master branch, but I'm going to show you what a good practice is. We have our forked project, and we want to create a new branch to work off of instead of master by saying git checkout -b to create a new branch. And we want to name this branch. In our case, let's just name it test. If I hit enter, you'll see that now I'm on a new branch called test. And in this branch, I can add my name to this contributor list. In your case, you'll want to use your own GitHub profile. So we're using Markdown here, which is a syntax to write and have some functionality. For example, if we go to the contributors list, you'll notice that they are all clickable links. So we essentially use the same notation. We do a dash, square brackets with your GitHub username, and then in the parentheses, we just have the actual URL that you want to link to. In our case, the GitHub username that you have. So your GitHub username here, GitHub username here. Once we do that, we can save this file and now go back to our terminal and say git status. And we see here that, yeah, we just modified our contributors.md file. And if I do git diff to see any changes that we've made, we see that we've added this new line. So let's clear this. We have our name all set up. And we can now add this commit by saying git add and dot for everything. We'll add everything. And then git commit. And we'll write a message that says added my name to contributor list. There we go. So now it's time for us to push these changes. Now if I do git push origin master, well, right now what that would mean is that we want to push to origin, and the origin is this start here guideline, which I forked. So the origin is actually my version of the project. And if I want to push to master, that is the main branch. But we don't want to do that because ideally, we want to be able to also change and add our name to the original Zero to Mastery Start Here guideline because this is the main project. So what we can do is instead of master, push to our test branch. So we say git push origin test. There we go. Now, if I go back here and go to my project and I refresh, I now have two branches, the master branch and also the test branch, which I just updated. So one way to do this is to click on new pull request. And you can add comments here like I've added my name to the list, and you can tag some of our maintainers. In my case, I'll just tag myself. If I do create pull request, I now have my pull request. And notice here how my pull request is now at the Zero to Mastery Start Here guideline. So that if I go back to our Start Here guideline, I see that I'm part of the pull request now, right here. And because I've tagged one of the management teams, so in this case, it was myself, or you can tag any of the management team that we have. Now, in this case, I'm cheating because I also help manage this. So I can just myself merge the pull request. Most likely in your case, you won't be able to merge it yourself. But if I click merge and confirm, there we go. I've merged my project. I've deleted the branch and the pull request is closed. If I want, I can even delete my own fork. But for now, let's keep it the way it is. Let's check the Start Here guidelines and see if my name has been added to the list. If I scroll all the way down, hey, check that out. There's my name on the list. So I've been added to the contributors list. That was pretty easy, right? And the cool part is that now if I go to my profile, I actually have Zero to Mastery as one of my organizations. So if you're able to add yourself to the contributors list, you can actually join the Zero to Mastery organization and have this little icon appear on your GitHub profile. And lots of GitHub profiles have organizations, so people usually have their workplace icon in here. So it's just a nice little thing to have on your profile to show that you're involved in the programming community. So we've just made a pull request, which was step 2, and that was pretty fast, right? Finally, the next step is to go join an actual project and start contributing the way we just learned in our Zero to Mastery organization. Now, there's actually a guide that we provided for you to figure out what project you choose, what's going to be good for you. We also have in our Discord a group projects section where we can look at some of the current projects that are happening, or you can just go to the Zero to Mastery organization and pick any of the repositories to contribute to. Now, in the next video, we're going to contribute to one of these projects and show you a real life scenario. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye. Welcome back. We've just done our first contribution, which wasn't that crazy, right? We just went to the Start Here guideline and added our names to the contributors list. But let's actually contribute to an open source project now. Now, in our community, every month we do coding challenges. Now, you can search for coding challenges here, but this month is a special event because we're actually doing a Hacktoberfest event. And this happens once a year in our community in October. And you can see that if we click on the Hacktoberfest 2019 link, so depending on when you watch this, you might have a different year. You see that we've provided for you an opportunity to contribute to an open source project. We actually have Animation Nation. We have a Santified project and also a Python project. And you can contribute to any one of these. So if we look at Animation Nation, well, people have contributed their CSS animations here. Ooh, this one looks nice. We also have the Santified project. So people have created a little Santa website. That's kind of nice. Very, very cool. And then we also have the Python art project that actually does something really cool. If I go to the website here, it'll actually turn an image into ASCII art, which is really, really cool. Now, there's tons of projects that you can do, but let's try and do this Animation Nation project. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the project repository and follow the steps that we've done before. That is, we fork the repository. We now clone this repository. Let's git clone. And while that is being cloned, let's look at the instructions. Now, most open source projects will have instructions on how you can contribute. In our case, we have a nice step-by-step guide. So in the art directory, create a directory name after yourself. Okay, that's nice and easy to do. So let's cd into the Animation Nation project. Let's open it up in Sublime. And we see that there's an art folder. And in here, we have to create our own name or our own folder with our name. I've actually already created a folder called Animatron that has a little CSS project with index.html and CSS. So just to show you, let's move this. Or just to show you, this is my little animation using some simple index.html and CSS. Nothing too crazy. Now, all we need to do is move this into the art folder as the instructions have given us. And now we've added our project. Let's see, where's Animatron? There it is. That's my project over there. Next is to, well, within this folder, make sure we create two files, an HTML file and a CSS file, and link the CSS file to your HTML. Using only HTML and CSS, create a work of art. So I've actually already done that. Again, if we go back to the project, I have an index.html file, very, very simple, that's linked to a style sheet. And this is my styles that I've added for my animation that has these little lines. Now, the last part here is to add my own card to this section, to the include.js file. So let's just copy this, go to the includes or include.js, and you see this is where everybody enters their information. And right here, we can just add what we copy and pasted. Make sure the indentation is proper. So the art name is going to be called Animatron. Page link is going to be, well, the name of our folder. So Animatron index.html. And then the GIF name, which they suggested that we include a GIF. So if I remember correctly, the GIF name was trans.gif. Again, I just created a little GIF of my animation. So we'll call it trans.gif. Author is Andre, and the GitHub link is my GitHub link. All right, so that should be good. Let's now make a pull request. Now, notice here how I did all these changes on master. Ideally, we created these changes on a new branch. So we can actually just do that now. Git checkout B and call it Animatron. So if I do git status now, I see that I have 2 changes. That's good. Let's do git add, git commit, adding my artsiness to the project. And then finally, git push origin Animatron. All right, if we go back to the project, we see that we actually now have a little icon that says compare pull request. If I go back to the forked repo, 0 to mastery, you see right over here that I also have this yellow banner. So if I click on this and say, please add me to this list, and we'll link to, this is Joy, who's one of the managers. So I'm just going to say, please add me to the list. We actually don't even need to tag her because she will check this occasionally. So I'm going to create a pull request. It's now opened. That's awesome. So please add me to the list. If I look at my file changes, you can see that these are what I've added to the project. So if I now merge pull request, again, you won't be able to do this, but some of our management team, people who are managing the open source projects, will be able to merge for you. We can delete the branch since we have merged everything. And now let's see if the changes have been made. If I go to the 0 to mastery, Animation Nation. So if I now look for my project, hey, look at that. There's my little Animatron project that, well, there it is. There's my CSS. That's beautiful. Now, the way this project is designed, it randomly selects the CSS animation. So it might not show all of them at the same time. So you might have to refresh this a few times. But just like that, I made my open source contribution. Now, there's a ton of projects here that you can join. And like I said, this is a playground for you to test, make mistakes, because this isn't a real workplace. We want to practice these skills before we actually go into work and make big, dangerous changes. And that's open source. I highly, highly recommend that you get involved. It's a great way to work with others. It's a great way to learn how Git and GitHub really work. There's no doubt that there's a lot that an individual programmer can do. However, the progress and scale that something can be built is really compounded when many people work on something together. Go make your first open source contribution and have fun building things with your fellow programmers. It may one day lead you to impress a potential employer. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. The most successful people that I know, and I'm not just talking about developers, I'm talking about all the successful people that I know, are masters of learning. We all have the same amount of time in the day, 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 26 seconds. However, some people are able to accomplish more than others. Why is that? I'm a big proponent of efficiency. If you're able to learn something in much less time than somebody else, then you can compound the benefit over your lifetime. Now, I know many people have different learning abilities, but this isn't a contest with others. This is a contest within yourself. Figure out what makes you successful in learning. Don't compare yourself to others. Whether you're a visual learner or maybe you need to take breaks every 30 minutes, figure out what your best learning style is. Learn how to learn. Don't just watch videos blindly at 2 times the speed and expect to learn everything. Find the most efficient way that works for you and keep practicing. By learning to learn, you become a better developer. As developers, we have to constantly learn throughout our career. Our learning never stops because technology is constantly evolving. So if you want to be a successful developer, you have to learn your best learning style. It is better to figure out what makes you tick, what makes things clearer for you now than later on in your career. Start early, figure out what is the best method for you, because it's going to be a skill that you're going to use throughout your career. This is something that we started our course with. The idea that when learning something with our limited time and resource, we need to make sure that we understand the most important concept. Why are we learning this? Why is this worth my time? And why is this something that I should dedicate this time to? Too often we see new things in the developer ecosystem. It is always exciting to be working on the newest and shiniest thing that everybody is talking about. But remember, those libraries and frameworks and configuration files and tools, those things come and go. They're always changing. You can be a master of Webpack one day, and 2 years later, nobody cares because there's a better tool out there. The things that stick around are the fundamental computer science topics and software development practices. Sure, these things change over time as well, but they always evolve slowly with why in mind. When learning new things, make sure you understand why the solution was created. What problem is it solving? And why is this the answer to your problems? If you're able to do this, you stop being a player in the game of catch-up in the developer ecosystem, always trying to learn the latest library, the newest tool, the coolest functions to learn. It's like a game of hamster who's constantly trying to keep up with the wheel, trying to run on that wheel. But instead, be an observer who is watching the ecosystem evolve from above. Watch how new libraries come and go. Understand the why of each libraries, what problems they solve. Understand the big picture, why we do things. But be the observer, not the hamster. You'll have a happier, longer career overall. Trust me. You won't be constantly trying to catch up with every library and framework this way. This big picture vision is what makes a senior developer or a manager or a leader. They don't have narrow vision. They see the entire ecosystem and they are able to make smart decisions because of that. So always start with why. Hello there. I want to talk quickly about one of the tools that we're going to use throughout the course, especially when we do bonus questions and also for you to use after you're done with the course. In my opinion, this is the best website to get interview questions. And the thing that I love about LeetCode is that they have a ton of questions, but they give really, really good descriptions, and you're also able to code online in a ton of different languages that you choose. It's up to you what you choose to code in. And although they have a paid version, you can do most of these problems without a subscription, just for free. I also want to give you a heads up and let you know that their interface sometimes changes. As you can see, for some problems, it looks like this. And when you watch this video, things might be organized a little bit different on the screen. But the key thing is there's the solution tab, which some questions will have. But my favorite is the discuss tab. Because no matter what your language, you can type in a solution here, and you'll see all the people that did their solution in, let's say, Python. Or let's say you wanted to do C++. Well, all the C++ solutions are here, as well as the votes, views, and comments. This is, again, one of my favorite resources, but I want to warn you, there are a ton of problems here, and they vary from easy to really difficult. And you can spend a lot of time just constantly doing these questions over and over. But don't get sucked into the rabbit hole. After you do a certain number of problems here, you're already going to be a lot better than the average programmer. So do them for fun afterwards, but don't forget to focus on what the most important task at hand is. That is, getting that dream job. And don't worry, some of the top programmers still have difficulties with some of the questions here. So never feel like this shows you the quality of the programmer you are. It's just a playground for you to use throughout your career to improve. And no, they are not sponsoring me or doing anything like that. I just think they are a great tool. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hey there, this is my face, Andre. I'm usually sitting in front of a computer, not in front of a camera, which I'm not comfortable with. But this is the AMA video, and wow, I want to just absolutely thank all of you because we have officially hit 100,000 unique students, which is insane, absolutely mind-blowing. I did an AMA video when we hit 1,000 students, and I thought that was just extraordinary. And to be at 100,000 now is absolutely incredible. I feel extremely lucky. I feel extremely blessed, and not to get too sappy here, but I'm very, very thankful for you watching this video right now, because I don't really do any marketing, and it's all grown out of word of mouth. So thank you for telling your friends, your family, your kids, whatever it is. I am extremely thankful that I get to do what I do, and it's all because of you. All right, so no more sappiness. Let's get to it. I asked you on Discord some questions that you might have for me. There were a lot of questions. Unfortunately, I won't be able to answer all of them. I don't want to make this into a boring 1-hour video. So I've picked the ones that I thought had a lot of people interested in them, and hopefully I can give you some answers. Keep in mind that you should form your own opinions and decisions based on these. This is just one person's view, my view. It doesn't mean that I'm 100% correct. If I thought that, then I would have a YouTube channel. But take it with a grain of salt. These are just my opinions. I may be wrong, I may be right. It's just what has worked in my life. Doesn't necessarily mean that it will work for you or the answers are right for you. All right, let's see. First one here. We have Nick Solar, who asked, what's the best way to get into machine learning and artificial intelligence? That's actually a question that kept coming up. A lot of people are interested in machine learning, data science, anything related to AI, because it is extremely popular and a hot topic right now. I actually have a course coming up on it that tries to tackle that question, because machine learning right now, it's a bit of a buzzword where it solves all your business problems, when in fact, maybe it's not necessarily so. And I think there's developer interest to learn about machine learning, as well as business analysts and business decision makers to use machine learning and data to improve their profits and their business. So I didn't really give you an answer for that one, but it's one of those topics that I think in order to learn about it, you should at least learn to code, become a web developer first, or perhaps have some understanding of business data analysis before you get into it. All right, next question is from NK. Talk about your life as a developer from start until now to learn from you. Well, I think some of you know from my previous MMA, I did not come from a computer science background. I came from a business background. I did also a minor in psychology and learned to code in my 20s. I'm 33 now, by the way. Hopefully I don't look 33, but that's my age. And yeah, I would break down the developer lifecycle into 3 phases. So the first one is where you're just learning. You're learning to code. Everything is completely new. You feel extremely overwhelmed. You don't know what to learn, what person to trust, what mentor to have, what course to take. That's a really big challenge, and getting to the point of understanding and being able to build something from scratch yourself, I think that's the first phase. The second phase was when I was employed for the first time, and the first couple of years working as a developer, where you feel the imposter syndrome, right? Where you feel like you just don't know enough, or somehow they hired you by mistake and, well, everybody else around you is smarter than you. That phase really goes by. The one advice that I have for that phase is to honestly be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is, ask as many questions as you want. Don't feel like by raising your hand and asking a question, it's going to make others look at you like you're dumb or not good enough. The more questions you ask, the better you'll have the answers, and you'll find that the successful people through this phase are the people who ask a ton of questions. When they don't understand something, they try to learn and try to grab as much experience as possible from those around you. And then the third phase is when you start to become a little bit of a senior developer, when you start to get confident in your abilities. You perhaps start to lead projects, perhaps other junior developers look up to you and ask you questions. One of the biggest things with that phase of a developer is to not almost get a God complex, where you feel like your opinions are the right ones and everybody else's is absolutely wrong. I've seen way too many really good developers get overconfident in themselves and have really strong opinions where they don't take anything else into consideration. I think through that phase, if you're able to understand that everything has pros and cons, everything depends on the situation, and that you're not, oh, I only use GraphQL, oh, I only use TypeScript, and dynamic languages are trash. When you avoid those strong opinions to almost make yourself feel like you're smart, you're doing something wrong there. You want to be open to ideas, open to suggestions, and not forget to keep growing from that phase, because as you start to get more and more recognition, maybe you feel more confident, it's very easy to think that you've reached the pinnacle and you need to stop learning. This whole industry is all about learning and constantly evolving, and what you know 2 years from now will probably be different than what you know now. So those are the 3 phases, kind of the ones that I went through. Obviously, I'm teaching now, but for me, learning doesn't stop. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly trying to improve myself, both in teaching, but also as a developer. And I hope that that is the case with you as well. All right, next question. Next question is from SG. How many countries have you visited during the last year? Any suggestions to travel while working remote? So for some of you that don't know, I work completely remote. I carry my recording equipment online, and I set up my studio wherever I am in the world. So my courses have been recorded in Ecuador, in Nicaragua, Colombia, in Greece, in Romania, pretty much anywhere that I'm traveling. I bring my recording equipment, set up my little studio, and record. So last year I traveled to, I would say, about 7 or 8 countries where I lived in them long term. My favorite was I actually recorded the Master the Coding interview. course in a little house on the side of a volcano in Ecuador. We're the last house at the very top of the volcano, so we had to hike down and grab groceries every time we needed to eat or wanted to cook dinner, and hike back up with all our groceries. That was a lot of fun. Any advice for remote? Honestly, it's one of those lifestyles that it sounds nice, but it also requires a lot of dedication and commitment to work, instead of just not being committed to a schedule and making it really easy to go off and pretend like you're busy without actually accomplishing anything. So you do need to have a bit of structure, but for those that are self-motivated and determined enough and can keep track of tasks and don't get distracted often, it's definitely a lot of fun. All right, this next question, I think I got asked maybe 5 times from people like Dorjan, Shupar, Scramblelock. All of them essentially said, why did you quit your full-time job? How come you're not a developer anymore? Well, let's say that I'm still a developer. I do a bit of consulting work on the side. The reason that I quit my developer job was mainly because I wanted to travel a bit and take a break. I had spent a couple of years working for other people and working on projects that perhaps I didn't care too much about. I was working for other people's passion projects or businesses, and after a while that kind of gets old, or at least it did for me, where I found that I stopped learning as much. It was just repeating and doing the same thing over and over. So I decided to quit and kind of figure out what I want to do next. And along the way, I decided to record some videos, my first course, Zero to Mastery, to just keep myself busy and keep doing something and help people who were like me, where they didn't have a CS background and wanted to get into web development, but there wasn't a clear path for them to do so. So I recorded that course and it took off, and all of a sudden this became my full-time job. And now I would 100% still go back to being a full-time developer, but I'm having so much fun teaching. I still get to code every day. I still get to learn every day. And if anything, I think this way I have a bigger impact on people's lives than I did when I worked on a single project. So that's why I quit my job, and in the end of the day, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I have another question here, which is, what is my biggest regret? I feel like I'm in an interview right now, so I'll give you my interview answer in case you ever get asked this in an interview. So my biggest regret, honestly, there's nothing. I'm really happy that I learned coding when I did, in my 20s, and not when I was young. Because when I was young, I was able to learn different skills. I was able to learn about business, about psychology, about communicating with others and people. And those skills helped me get my first job as a developer. Although maybe I started to code when I was a lot later on in life, it's not like I didn't do anything before my 20s. I was learning different skills. And for those people that perhaps are thinking, am I too old to learn to code? Or I'm in my 30s and there's people, in their teens that are learning to code right now. There's no way that I'm going to be able to keep up. Keep in mind that most likely you have skill sets that other people don't. And when it comes to regret, honestly, there's nothing. As long as you're learning every single day and learning something useful, over the years, that's going to compound. And honestly, every single mistake, every single decision that you make leads you to where you are now, which sounds a little hokey pokey, but it is true. Honestly, there are no regrets. If you're learning, you're never going to have regrets in life. All right, Yex, how's it going, Yex? Asked me what annoyed you the most about being a developer. I usually don't get annoyed. I'm pretty easygoing. But the one thing that I did notice was that as people get more and more experienced, they tend to form really strong opinions. And everybody wants to feel like they're part of a group. And I think we see that a lot on Twitter and YouTube, and all these people with really strong opinions that kind of gang up on other people that have different beliefs than them. I think it's very easy in the developer community to have something like that, where you're thinking, my React team is better than your Angular team, or TypeScript and static typing is the way to go, or REST is dead and let's all use GraphQL. I think when you have that type of mentality, it's really hard to actually have smart discussions and decisions within a project. It becomes really easy for those who feel superior to others and feel confident in their opinions to really impose their opinions on others, especially junior developers that are susceptible and have less experience, so they start to believe these senior developers that perhaps have really strong opinions. And in turn, that kind of creates this wave of more and more people that think it's a good idea to have strong opinions and debate with others and argue with others and telling people that their code sucks and their code is the right way of doing it. I think that was a little bit annoying to deal with because I think it influences junior developers a lot, and I don't think it's a good attitude to have when working with others. I think being somebody senior, being a lead, being a project lead, it means you're a person that doesn't put other people down, but it lifts others. And that was a little bit annoying because I saw that was a little bit prevalent, where everybody's trying to almost outbeat each other and be a better developer than this person and this person, instead of all of you growing together and learning together, because there's enough developer jobs for everybody. You don't need to beat out everybody to be the number one developer. So that mentality was a little bit annoying to me, but then again, I worked in Toronto and Silicon Valley, and I think those areas especially have really strong individualistic philosophies. All right, this is another question from DH. From where and how did you learn and become a developer? So when I started to learn to be a developer, I probably spent, I would say, $20. I think I bought a book on HTML and CSS, and the rest was all online for free, just using online resources. The only difference was that when I started to learn, there were very few resources online. I think I used one blog post that told me to use Photoshop and GIMP and some tools that I actually didn't even need, but it was really hard to find resources online when I started to learn. So I essentially just try to grab as many resources as possible and create my own curriculum, but it's not like it is now. I think right now we have a lot of resources online. It's a lot easier, and there's more of a clear-cut path to become a web developer. So I'm a little bit jealous, but I also did the same thing that you probably are doing, which is watch a lot of online courses, read a lot of books, read a lot of articles, and most importantly, building my own projects and coding as much as possible. That nothing beats actually coding. You can watch videos all day, but if you're not doing anything, if you're not producing anything, it's like watching a tennis match and trying to become a better tennis player. It's just not going to happen. We have Jamie who asked, what's the best way to practice code? Is it good by imitating someone else's code for practicing? Again, goes back to my last point. The best way to practice code is to code. The more you code, the more you practice, the better it is. But keep in mind that the best way to code is to solve your own problems, create your own projects. I actually don't recommend just watching all my videos and following along without coding, because then you're not going to be able to do things on your own. The best way to code is to code by doing your own thing. You can watch 100 videos on people coding and follow along, but if you don't understand why we're doing things, then when you're left to your own device, you're not going to be able to do anything. So the best way to code is think of a project today, think of a task that you have to do over and over in your life, and see if you can automate it with code. That's the best way to learn. Ty Lim ask, what is your favorite tech stack? My favorite tech stack is the one that lets me accomplish my goal as fast as possible. That's a very vague answer, but honestly, anything that lets me finish fast and deliver something fast is my favorite tech stack. Because I tend to work by myself or in small teams, I really prefer things that are efficient. So for example, I'm not a big fan of TypeScript, because although you get type safety and static typing, it's a lot of extra code. It's the same reason that I personally am not a big fan of Java programming, not because it's not a great language, but because for my personal use cases, I'm not working at a big company with thousands of developers for, let's say, a financial institution. If I'm building a personal project, I'd rather use something quick and easy like Python or JavaScript to write a few lines of code and accomplish a goal. So there's really no favorite tech stack. It's the stack that allows me to accomplish the goal the fastest, which happens to be usually dynamically typed languages, and usually the languages that I'm comfortable with. I don't need to learn something new until I have a need to learn something new. All right, S. Morales Jr., that's what it is. Any advice on escaping the golden handcuffs and going freelance? I have a cushy non-developer job at Google, and it's hard to imagine leaving when I have a family and a mortgage, but I long for freedom. And this topic of freelancer is another topic that has come up many times. So let me address it right now. You know, I get to work remotely. I get to work for myself, which I feel very fortunate about, and I'm extremely lucky. But when it comes to freelancing, I actually am against freelancing. Obviously, every situation is different, but let me explain why I think freelancing might not be the best option for most of you. Not all of you, but for most of you. You see, when it comes to freelancing, let's say you're just starting to learn. You're just learning to code. If you go straight into freelancing, you lose the ability to work with others, to learn from others, and actually be in a company and understand how their processes work, how they work with developers. You gain a lot of experience by working on projects with others, with other developers, working with management teams, working with project managers, scrum masters. That's a really valuable experience that I really recommend for people just getting into coding. Now, let's say that you've had a couple of years of experience. You've worked with teams, you have that experience. Should you go into freelancing? I think you should go into freelancing if you have a clear edge or a clear advantage over others. For example, you have an existing client base and you have people that really trust your work, or you offer a really unique skill. The problem with freelancing right now is that you're essentially battling with thousands, potentially millions of other freelancers to get a job. A lot of people might go to places like Upwork or any type of place where you can bid on projects. What happens is, in those scenarios, people just bid, and it's a battle to lower and lower prices. So what happens, you eventually become an employee of a contract that you probably didn't charge enough for. So it's really hard for you to compete with people that keep lowering prices, and you'll see that if you're a freelancer, that's what will happen. Unless you have an established client base, unless you have a really distinct advantage, maybe you're extremely skilled in graphic design and you're well known, then yes, maybe you can charge more for it. But people that are usually looking for freelancers are usually looking for the cheapest price. And when you do that, you stop valuing your time. You stop being a slave to the person that created the contract, and you're trying to fulfill and please this person so that they give you a good review for the next contract job. I think freelancer jobs can be good, but there's also a lot of issues that come with it. If you want to be a freelancer or perhaps be your own boss, I think there's better ways for you to go about it. I think there's smarter ways to go about it instead of competing with others on price. So I know that's not really helpful. It's just my personal opinion when it comes to freelancing, but it is a question that I get asked a lot. Freelancing essentially involves you taking a lot of time finding clients, working a lot for clients, and at the end of the day, why not just work for a company that already has the clients for you so you can gain that experience? You might think you have the freedom of being a freelancer, being your own job, but instead you're an employee of whoever your contractor is. That's my advice. I know it's not very helpful. But like I said, it's not for everybody. I think there's better opportunities for you to work remotely. You can work for remote companies. There's tons of websites right now of showing companies that hire remote workers. I think that's a better option for you than being a freelancer because the reasons that I mentioned previously. JT Avares 8 asks, how is life as far as time spent with family and doing what you like now as an instructor and before when you work for a company? Do you enjoy work more now or before when you work for a company? Hands down, I absolutely love what I'm doing now. I wake up every day and all I can think about is work and what I'm going to teach or what video I'm going to record or what coding challenge I'm going to do. I feel so extremely lucky to be at a point in my life where I absolutely adore and love what I'm doing. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Being a developer was absolutely great. Working full-time for a company, I loved it. I had a lot of friends. I got along really well with my bosses, with my clients. But having the freedom to work on what I want, to work on my projects, but most importantly, knowing that the work that I do maybe impacts just a little bit of the world, I think is a really rewarding feeling, and I'm extremely thankful to know that not everybody's going to love my courses, but at least there are some that do enjoy my courses and gain a bit of help in their career through it, and that is the most rewarding feeling. And honestly, the past 2 years since I've started to teach have been some of the happiest moments of my life, and I know this thing isn't going to last forever. I know I'm not going to teach forever, but I'm really appreciative of this moment to have this opportunity, at least for now. All right, Mr. Luciferus asks, a safe, secure, and stable life, being a skillful employee working for someone else, or dreaming big and starting a business on your own and being your own boss. What path do you suggest? Honestly, it really depends. I think everybody wants the ideal work for yourself, own your own business, work remotely, live wherever you want. It sounds sexy, but it's not for everybody. And before I started teaching, before I was a developer, I started a bunch of businesses. I was running surfing yoga retreats in Nicaragua. I was doing adventure tours. I was doing adventure race businesses. I was trying all these different things that in the end weren't extremely successful, but they were a lot of fun. And meanwhile, I had friends who were doing their MBAs, they were becoming lawyers, and they have really nice life right now. They have families, they're very comfortable, and there's actually an advantage there. As you start to work at a company and you see people leave that company, most people think, oh, I should leave too. But you can also look at it as an opportunity for somebody else has left. Now you are one step closer to going up that corporate or company ladder. So I think it's not one is better than the other. It really depends on what you prefer, what kind of lifestyle you prefer. Do you want more of a stable, comfortable life to make sure that you can provide for your family, or are you at a stage in your life where you can perhaps take more risks and you're okay with the high ups and high downs that may pay off, may not in the end. But I think every day, if you're working towards what your ideal life should look like, eventually you will get there, but don't expect to get there overnight. It's hard work. Nothing comes easy. There's no easy solution. So all you can do is kind of work towards that goal and learn every day and improve every day, and eventually you'll get there. But it really matters. It's the best thing you can do is to have a plan for yourself and write down what you value, and based on those values and what makes you happy, decide what type of path you want to take. I got all philosophical there for you. All right, let's get back to some coding. Justin W. Lin, hey Justin, asks, how do you decide to learn next in this ever-changing landscape? From Redux, GraphQL, React, Angular, Vue, SSR, there's so much to learn, so little time. So I guess, how do you decide what to learn then, and how you actually learn and make time for it? I think this is actually something I'm pretty good at, or I think I'm good at, and that is because when I started to learn how to code, I realized how much is out there. I've become really good at selecting only the right things to learn. And there's the famous Pareto principle, which says the 20% usually accounts for 80% of value. So what's the 20% that's going to give you 80% of value when learning? And things like GraphQL, for example, they're extremely popular. So a lot of people want to learn it, but at the end of the day, how many people actually use GraphQL in production? How many people have actually built something with GraphQL that creates a value? I like to look at technologies and see what's hot and what's trending, but not necessarily jump really deep into them until there's a clear need for me to learn it. So for example, Vue.js, yeah, I know a bit of Vue.js, but I wouldn't call myself an expert because I haven't had to use Vue. I can use React or I can use Angular. So being selective in what you learn instead of trying to learn everything is going to be a better long-term strategy over the course of your career, because learning never stops. And the more you learn, the more you start to realize that it's not about the syntax, it's not about learning the libraries, it's not about reading the documentation from start to finish. It's about understanding the higher principles, the why was this tool built? Why are we doing things the way it is? What problem is it solving? Being able to understand those and discuss those is going to be really, really important, because at the end of the day, the fundamentals is what matters, not the syntax. If you learn the fundamentals, if you learn to think like a developer, think about systems and how things communicate, that's a lot more valuable than learning the newest React Hooks API. I mean, that could still be important, but as you can see, I'm very selective in what I learn. And I'm not trying to learn 10 languages at the same time. If I want to learn something, I'll dedicate maybe a year to get really, really good at something and then move on to the next thing. So really being picky, as if you're dating a new technology, and making sure that it's the right one is the way to go. Oh, and with that said, you obviously have to enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy learning, then that's going to be really hard. So that's just something that has to come for yourself, and being able to enjoy the learning process, because that's going to be your biggest asset. If you enjoy learning, you're going to learn more. Adrian asks, how long do you plan on continuing doing courses? Because, well, this isn't going to last forever, right? Honestly, I'm not sure. It's been close to 2 years now that I've been doing this. I don't imagine doing this for a lifetime. There's only so much I could teach. I'm going to keep going until I stop enjoying it. Right now, I really enjoy the process. I get a lot of reward by hearing your reviews and how pleased you are with the courses. So that really drives me to create more. But eventually, I will have to stop. I can't just keep creating courses. They do take a lot of time and effort. So I hope that I can keep going for a few more years, but one day maybe retire and spend a little more time with family or move on to something else. But for now, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Balloon asks, do you play any instruments? No, I am the least musically talented, artistically talented person you'll ever meet. I took piano lessons, guitar lessons when I was a kid, and I'm hopeless. Thank God coding exists, and thank God sports exist, because if I had to do anything in the arts, I would not be very good. Garasan asks, it would be really inspirational for all of us to what do you want to do with the next 10 years of your life? Coding, business, looks like he's the same age as me, so just asking what's the next 10 years of my life look like? The next 10 years of my life is going to involve learning every day. I want to, whether it's coding, whether it's different things, I have different hobbies that I want to keep improving at. I really like surfing, so I want to become a better surfer. And there's so many things that I really want to improve. So honestly, every single day, my goal is to learn. I want to hopefully have a family by then and have a house and just enjoy life. And hopefully in 10 years, I'm retired, being able to spend every single day with my son or daughter and just enjoying life. But honestly, what I'm doing now, is not much different than what I hope to be doing 10 years from now, because I am really, really happy with how life is right now, and I wouldn't really change anything. Dorian again asks, do you think all the races you do and yoga and exercises help you mental clarity and have helped your career as a developer when things get rough? Yeah, so fun fact, I'm also a yoga instructor on the side, and I do a lot of adventure racing as well, and both of those things I think actually really help with being a developer and dealing with different situations at work. I think for adventure racing, it puts you into situations that are extremely uncomfortable that you have to just survive through, and then with yoga, obviously, it stills your mind, especially with meditation as well. I think those are extremely important, especially when compared to coding, when you're staring at the screen and everything is usually fast-paced and it's really, really easy to get lost in your head. I think balancing out coding with something that's complete opposite, like yoga or meditation. Again, not to get a little hippie here, but I think doing different things is important, and being physically active, being mentally strong, this is your vessel and this is your body, and you should take care of it, and it will only improve you as a developer and as a coder. So I 100% think that although for some people it may be silly to meditate, although for some people they don't enjoy exercising, everybody has their different things, but I think doing something other than coding is really, really important for that balance and to not burn yourself out. Asim Ahmed asked about interview and the fact that he's really worried about interviews and that he doesn't know enough. And honestly, just keep this in mind, because this is something I hear from so many people. Everybody is just a child trapped in an adult's body. No human knows everything perfectly, and most likely the person sitting across from you that's asking you a question on an interview doesn't know everything, has their own insecurities, has their own areas that they're not an expert in. So go into an interview knowing that this person is not God. It's not the ultimate smartest person that you'll ever meet. They have their flaws and their issues. And if you start to realize that there's no such thing as a perfect developer, a perfect coder, and everybody is just trying to pretend like they're smart, everybody's just trying to pretend like they're an adult. Remember, everybody's just a kid trapped inside an adult's body. You start to realize that this whole world that we live in, this whole system that we're in, is just a game. Just like you're a coder, just like you're a programmer and you're trying to create a system, this is simply a system that you need to learn, to adapt to, and to try to essentially beat or improve. So put yourself in their situation. They want to feel important. They want to feel like they're doing a good job. So maybe asking them questions during the interview, maybe praising them for something that they did, even though they're the ones being interviewed, is going to make them feel better. That perhaps will make them ask you better or easier questions. Again, think of it as a system. Think of it as a game, and realize that there is nothing is extremely serious and important. Everything is just a game that you can play and that you can improve. And if you start looking at life, at interviews as a game, I think it becomes a lot more fun, and it also removes some of those insecurities. I don't know if that answer helped, but kind of went on a tangent there, but hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, last question, because this video is getting a little too long. So Charles Manchin asks, what's a typical day for you at the moment? Your courses are that's very kind of you. Seem to be your healthy way of living and your sporty attitude. It'd almost be worth a course on how to balance your life and the way you do things while you code. I guess I kind of already talked about this, but my everyday life usually involves in the morning drinking coffee, reading articles and catching up in the industry, learning a little bit. I really like morning for learning, and then I usually either record or plan recording or edit videos in the afternoon. Then around 1-2 o'clock I usually go out for a run, do some exercises, try to get outside, not stare at the screen, and be active. And then I come back. I usually check out my emails, answer questions, go on Discord and chat with other students. And then usually by 5 o'clock, I'm done. I don't do any work. I stop whatever I'm doing because I know after 5 o'clock, for me personally, I'm not productive. So I usually spend time with family, with my girlfriend, or do social activities, or maybe go play some tennis, go play some soccer, go for a hike, just to relax. And I usually go to bed at 10 o'clock. Not that very exciting. I don't enjoy going to bars or clubs anymore. I'm an old soul, and at 10 o'clock I'm ready for bed and I'm ready for the next day. So a pretty boring day. Nothing too exciting, but it's what I like. All right. Anyway, this was the AMA video. Again, I want to thank you. I cannot believe that there's 100,000 students that are taking my courses, and honestly, if it was just me, I would never get to 100,000 students. It's every single one of you that talk to others, recommend my courses, that really help me get to where I am, and I cannot express how thankful I am for everything that you have done, that you have shown support for, and I hope to continue to keep impressing you and keep helping you with your learning journey. And yeah, I'm really thankful. So thank you.